came into this world, I came into it with a home, with a father that was a pastor, so I'm a preacher's son, and a mom that was just amazing. I had an amazing mother that loved God, loved my father.
I grew up in a very wonderful home with two parents that loved me very, very much. My father was an alcoholic and my mother was an enabler, so they did the best that they could raising me.
My childhood was church. That was everything, and I loved it. I loved God very much at a young age. That's was everything our life was surrounded around. My dad did mission work. I looked up to him in so many ways. He was everything to me. But at some point, we're just humans and we all live in the flesh. My dad came under attack, and he had an affair on my mom with her best friend. That impacted me in ways, now that I'm older and look back, that it was devastating.
I was alone in my childhood a little bit, and I had to figure things out on my own, and so I was exposed to that world at a very, very young age. So I really tried to be, the good student, the good daughter. I even tried to hide things that my dad was doing, so maybe she couldn't see, so it wouldn't upset her.
I became very angry and very bitter, and it all came clear to me, I thought, that church and preachers and this charade, as I thought it was a joke. I developed a hatred for church. I thought it was a joke. And so at a very young age, I wanted to do everything that I was ever taught not to do. And that was party, and I grew my hair out and got my ears pierced, and was getting in fights, and my grades plummeted, and I started hanging out with the guys that skateboarded and quit doing sports, and anything I knew that would make my dad very angry, I wanted to do.
My parents ended up getting a divorce whenever I was 16 years old, and I moved a whole entire state away from everything that I've ever known, and it landed me here in Tennessee. When that happened, that was a big life changer for me. It was very hard for me to be a part of at school, and nobody really wants to hang out with the new girl. So who made me feel a part of were the kids that were skipping school and doing wrong, and so that's where I went because I felt accepted, and I started down a very, very dark road.
I started drinking and using drugs at the age of 12. And it just progressed very quickly. It got worse. I did the harder drugs, more drugs. I had a lot of buddies that had older brothers and sisters. My addiction grew and spiraled out of control. All I cared about was my drugs and partying and what made Dave happy. And unfortunately, none of that ever did.
Before I know it, what was once a party on the weekends, I woke up every day needing a substance, needing something to get me through. My life went on a whirlwind very, very quickly. I knew I needed help, but I had gotten into a place that felt like society was done with me, felt like my family was done with me, and I was done with me. And I definitely thought that God was done with me because of everything that I had done.
I was go big or go home type of person. I caught 9 felonies in one rip, and that sent me down a whole nother road of time and charges and bad things. I'd had a friend get killed right in front of me. A guy shot and killed him over drugs. And that was devastating. That moment right there, I started really using a lot of really hard drugs every day, all day. I felt like I was getting ready to die. I'd been drinking for a week straight from the time I got up to went to bed, and I'd used every drug I could get my hands on. And I felt like I was on fire, and I fell out. I remember thinking I'm getting ready to die, and I fell out, and I woke up in this bathtub in the nastiest, dirtiest place you can imagine, with the craziest looking guy. But he had me in a bathtub with cold water on me, smacking me, telling me to wake up, and that's what I woke up to. And I remember thinking, I don't want to die like this. I'm better than this. I turned myself in. I had 3 aggravated charges. I went to my arraignment. I was looking at 15 to 25 years.
I was a very, very lost individual, encompassed by the enemy's grasp and by all the different demons that he puts on people that were in the state of mind that I was at a very young age. But the whole entire time, I could hear Jesus whispering to me, "Just look at me. Just look at me." And for years, I ran from that. I found myself backed up in a corner like a scared dog. And this was 7 years ago. And I realized that it was either call out to Jesus or it was die. And I finally picked calling out to the Lord. I finally picked, okay, you say you're not done with me. Your word says you're not done with me. So let's give it a chance. And that corner was jail for me. That corner was a jail cell where nobody cared about me. I had lost everything on the outside. I was homeless. I was 100 pounds soaking wet. I had no family that spoke to me because they had to show me tough love. So all I had to rely on was Jesus.
I went back to my cell that night, and this is not what you do if you're locked up, not for me. I always had to think I was the toughest guy in there, but I came back, and God, that little light that always stayed lit in me, He started talking to me, and I got on my knees in the middle of that cell, and for the first time, and I can't tell you when, I got on my knees, and I cried out to God, and I told Him if He gave me another chance to be a father and to be a son and to be home, that I would change my life and try to help others to the best of my ability. The next morning, a woman came to me. They called my name, and she knew my dad from when he was a preacher. And she said, "I want to offer you a chance to change your life. I know your past and your story." And I said, "You can't help me, you know." And so I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. You can't help me. Once I go in and do that kind of time, I'll never come home. I'm a junkie, and I don't know what to do. And she said, "I can help you, and I'm going to offer you an opportunity if you're willing to take it." And I said, "If you'll give me the chance, I want to change my life. I'll do whatever. If you're saying you can give me a chance and help me." And she said, "They have this new program called Drug Court, and I would like for you to go into it." Now, this program that I was getting accepted into, that she just offered me, I should have never even got into, because I've got aggravated felony charges. This was misdemeanor drug court. Should have never happened. I did a year in drug court and graduated it, and I was done with the system. And I knew when that woman walked away that day, it wasn't God speaking to me in audible voice. It was God telling me, though, very clearly in here through the Spirit, that this is your chance. This is it. Because there'd been many. This is it.
My relationship with my husband began actually in a drug court program.
You were not supposed to date in drug court, and the drug court team one day met over us, and they stood up in front of the whole drug court community one day and said, "We as a team have prayed about it and feel like this is God's will for these two people to be together." She had a light about her, and I don't know, something drew me to her because I wasn't being a good boy before that. And I was kind of still acting out on old behaviors, and something about her, I just wanted to be with her.
Everybody thought, oh, they'll bring each other down, but a year later we graduate drug court, and we had not only found our own identity separately, but we found our identity together in God.
God gave me joy. And when we come to know God and we build a relationship with Him and we learn to dance with Christ in our life, as far as looking into His Word and praying for His knowledge and His will, He gives us a joy that cannot be taken. So am I happy? I am, because I have that joy of Christ in my life that only God can give. I've tried to fill the void with many, many different things: women, drugs, alcohol, anything you can name of the world. But when I filled it with Christ, That's the only thing that gave me that joy. And I've had it ever since.
My favorite story in the Bible is the woman at the well. She had to come to the well by herself because everybody else rejected her because of her, how she was known in her village. But Jesus kept offering her water and asking her for a drink of her water. And she kept saying no. And that's like me. I kept saying no. I wouldn't listen because of everything that I was ever taught or everything that I thought I was, because I thought I wasn't worthy. And then finally I took a drink of his living water, and that's the only reason why I'm here today. I am a woman of God. I am a child of God. I don't want people to know me as Veronica, the recovering addict. That's just a piece of my life. I'm Veronica, the child of God. And that's what keeps me together today. That's what keeps me going, keeps me growing, and keeps a hunger and a thirst in me that I don't settle even for the life I have today. You know, this girl actually owns her own home, all because of God, and is getting ready to get her BSW at King University. And this is something that I never thought I would have, having 5 different warrants out for my arrest, sitting in the Bluntville County Jail. I thought it was going to be death or prison, but God said otherwise.
And I know today that God loves me no matter how I am or who I am, as long as I continue to look to Him and try to serve Him with all my heart and follow His path. I know that Christ is God. I know He died for my sins. And I would have never got to that level of understanding of God if it wouldn't have been for this church. And coming in here and being able to grow the way I was allowed to grow in here. I never had anything shoved or forced at me. And I'm thankful for that, because those were the things that pushed me away from church. That was the ugly parts of church to me. I've not seen any of that here. I love here. I was homeless, 7 years ago. I'm not now. Haven't been for many years. Nothing I acquired by myself or through me, but through God. He gave me many gifts. I have a wonderful marriage and wife. I have full custody of my son that I never thought would have happened. I get to be a father today, a husband. God is this man that walked up to me in my darkest, scariest place. And I was just bound by these big, heavy chains that were so heavy. I was weighted, I was crawling. I couldn't even move no more. And the power of God, He just dusted them off of me and picked me up from that. And that's the freedom of God, is I don't have to carry those big burdens and those chains and the guilt and shame that the world thinks and says that I have to carry. God freed me from all of that. That's why I have a joy that I never had before in my life.
Freedom in Christ for me is, while I know I'm always ever changing, that He is never changing. But He is a constant, and He is my constant, and my forever.